I've got a large collection of arcade games. I wonder how much it would cost to complete all of them if it was a real arcade. Only one way to find out. Before we get into today's game, I've got an announcement to make. I'm afraid the rest of the tour is cancelled. For 3 reasons. The first is Cyborgs. I thought that this game had an ending, but it doesn't, so I had to tick it off the list because, as you know, one of the rules of arcade is that the game has to have an ending. The second is because 720 seems to be bugged. The controls occasionally flip out and won't react to my inputs, sometimes just leaving me spinning in circles. I don't know why, but it is basically unplayable and that's been taken off the list too. Then finally, you may know I've started a new series on the channel where I play through the 1001 Games to Play Before I Die book. And Marble Madness is in that book, so I have to take that off the list as well, to prevent myself making 2 videos on the same game, lest I be repeating myself. So now leaves the question, what do I play now?
Why don't you do a racing one?
I've got it! I'll do a car game. What kind of car game though? I mean, I'm not the best driver in car games, and while I do like racing games, I'm only good at particular types. Simulators like Gran Turismo or Forza? Nah, too realistic, can't stay on the road. Mario Kart? Yep, that's my cup of ravioli.
Ravioli.
Looking at arcade races, however, there's a lot of them that don't have an ending. The majority are play till you lose. But there was some I found that did have an actual ending sequence to them. One such game is also a classic title among arcade fans, and that is Outrun. Unfortunately, that one is also in the 1001 book, so instead we're going to be looking at one of its many sequels, Turbo Outrun. One of Sega's most popular titles, Outrun was a game about cruising through the states with your beautiful babe by your side. Your goal is to race and drift your way to the end of the course within the time limit while avoiding arseholes who get in your way and battling against your own car for control. Turbo Outrun seeks to achieve the same goal of success with some new features, changes, and updated graphics. It did achieve some success and stands as a notable game next to its prequel counterpart. Starting the game shows you the route you're going to take. Rather than a multiple choice like in the original, you have a single route to drive composed of 16 different stages. Before you get to a race, you need to decide what your transmission is. A mechanics team then poke and headbutt your car for a second, and your car is ready to race. Another new addition is that you will be racing against an AI opponent. He has no name, but his goal is to steal your girl, so let's call him Douche in a Porsche. No offense to Porsche owners out there, the car he has is indeed a Porsche 959. Before I get into the gameplay, I have 2 things I need to inform you about. 1. I am going into this knowing that the whole attraction of an arcade game is the fact they have wheels and pedals, which could take or add to the experience. I, on the other hand, am using a controller, so I will try not to make that a big factor in my judgment of the game. The second thing is a reminder that I'm not the best driver. So, on to the gameplay. The objective of each section is simple. Race between the checkpoints before the timer runs out. Sounds easy, right? Well, at the start it is, but it can get quite frustrating later on. Oh, we will get to that. The control scheme is also simple, but with a new feature not in the prequel. There's a steering wheel, of course, the acceleration and the brake pedals, the gear shift as standard, but now it has a turbo feature. When used, you travel at speeds that not only put yourself and others at risk, but allow you to make some serious progress in the stage. And you can't just spam it either. A yellow bar begins to fill a set amount when you use your boost. When it hits overheat, you need to wait until the bar comes out of the overheat area before you can use it again. As you race between the checkpoints, you'll also need to beat Douche the Porsche before he gets there first. Crossing every checkpoint, you're given more time to reach the next one. Should you fail, then you are reset to the beginning of the current stage with a full minute to succeed. When you reach the end of every 4th stage, you can also choose an upgrade for your car, but more importantly, you get to see the track girls and the ska band who, at first, sound like they only know 8 notes. Speaking of music, one of the things Outrun is remembered for is its soundtrack. In the original, you only had the choice of 3 songs to listen to while you drive. In Turbo, you don't actually get to choose the songs this time, but the tunes that do play are still pretty good. I know I'm not always the best at describing things, especially when it's a subject I'm not trained in, like music. But the best way I can describe the majority of the tracks is a right balance of chill and motivated. It gets you pumped to race a really fast car for your own enjoyment at the endangerment of others. But at the same time, it doesn't give you the vibes of make it to the end or your girlfriend's gonna cuck you. The music is also louder than the sound effects, so you can actually hear it clearly over the gentle roar of your Ferrari. When it comes to sound, it's also pretty good. The roar of the engine seems a little underwhelming considering the car you're driving, but whatever little sound effects there are clear and sound as they should without being in your face or grinding against your eardrum. The tyres sound like they're burning against the roads in the drift. Douching a Porsche's insults can be understood, as well as his cries of frustration. And the crashes sound like there are no survivors. I think it also goes without saying that not only does the game sound great, it looks great too. The graphics are just as good, if not better, than the original. The Ferrari alone shows a ton of effort put into it. Not only did they draw it in a full 360 for the crashes and spin-outs, but the minor details on it add life to the game. Smoke emerges from your tyres, the tyres themselves spin. The spark of the turbo, your tail lights light up when you use the brakes. The vehicle turn is made up of several frames, and even the flutter of yours and your girlfriend's hair in the car really show that a lot of love went into this project. There are also short animations that happen at certain parts of the game, some of which contribute to the minimal plot of the game. Oh, remember before when I said, make it to the end or your girlfriend's gonna cuck you? Well, she does indeed cuck you for the douche in a Porsche. The backgrounds are sort of a mixed bag. Far in the distance is a static image of a goal that you'll never reach and literally into view when you change biome. The sides of the road are decorated with buildings, trees, signposts and so on that are copy and pasted all along the road. I get with the speed that you'll be going, you might not see what they look like if they were individually designed elements, but there's only about 3 or 4 of these elements per stage, so it gets repetitive quick. Having said that, the elements do change per stage, so at least there's variety to repeating background pieces. On a more positive note though, the look of the background aspects do look nice and detailed for something you won't see for very long. There's also a nice effect of the sky changing when you change stage to simulate the passage of time. So it looks good, and it sounds good. But does it play good? Let's take a look. At first, it handles well, mainly because the levels are being generous. The roads are wide open and the traffic is spaced out far. The first issue I was having was with steering. Despite the wide road, I often found myself sliding in the opposite direction I was turning, resulting in a lot of close calls and crashes. And I'm pretty sure that some of these crashes were down to physics deciding to change mid-race. Once again, I must reiterate, I am not the best driver, so this will automatically be harder for me, as my handling of the car is go faster for family. See, I make that joke, but I'm not even a fan of those films. I did start making the effort to slow down at corners and try to get around them, and while this did work earlier in the game, later on, slowing down cost me valuable seconds and at times would result in failure. Thankfully, I only failed once on the first 4 stages, and then when I did complete them, I got to choose the first of my 3 upgrades. Well, I am having trouble with the grip, but maybe if I add some speed to make up for having to slow down at corners, that will help, so let's go with that. Chances are, though, it's the wrong choice. Stage 5 starts up and that shallow bitch we laughingly call a girlfriend gets in the Porsche. You may be a picky bitch, but my character is a simp, so I will win you back, because this is the 80s and both of the sexes suck. Yeah, the engine was a bad choice. As you progress, the roads continue to narrow, traffic becomes more dense, police try to ram you off the road, and obstacles on the road begin to throw off your steering. Puddles are the worst. Somehow water on the road slows you down a little in a straight line. Well, I best turbo through it then. Oh god, it was oil! Shit! The turns also, pun not intended but I will say anyway because I'm immediately bankrupt, are a turn for the worst.
Kill yourself.
Harsh turns would show up one after the other as soon as the last one finishes, meaning I had to slow down even more to see what I was doing, wasting more time as a result. The grip of the car also seemed inconsistent. Sometimes it could get a grip on the roads perfectly at full speed, with turbo, and then slowing down at another one would send me way off course. I have no idea what I was doing wrong, if I was doing anything wrong, and I never did figure out what. But despite that, I only failed twice between stages 5 and 8. Stage 9, and the slag comes crawling back to us. This stage was the hardest the game had been so far. I chose the better grip in hopes that it would help me handle my newfound speed. Also, side note, why is there a Mini here? At first, the new grip was doing well. Corners felt easier and I could stay on the roads better. For the most part. However, the design of the levels from here on seriously give the impression that your upgrades are obsolete before you even get them. Okay, well that was just rude. To be fair though, the cover art does show us laughing as we break the law and potentially killing a man who's trying to feed his family.
Are we the baddies?
The roads in Stage 9 are narrow as all fuck, meaning that the traffic is near impossible to avoid, especially when a row of twats is in your way. Even worse if this road decides to make a row of wreckage to slow you down. Stage 10 improves on the road issue slightly by widening a little, yet rows of traffic still occur. And another issue, which has been sparingly seen up to this point, is emphasised. Sometimes you need to travel over a hill, which blocks your view, and then when you make it over the top, there's a good chance you're going to hit something with no time to react. Now that I think about it, your view has had a consistent problem throughout the game. Because the sprites of other vehicles are 2D and not as developed as your car, it's hard to judge if you can get past them safely. All too often you're convinced that what wasn't a crash should have been, and vice versa. I also found out the track girls are ghosts. Stage 13, on the final stretch now. Some manufactured love is used to piss off the douche in a Porsche, and we speed off to potential victory. With the final upgrade granted, I now have a bigger turbo bar, meaning I can use it more often. Hey, what the fuck is your problem? Honestly, up until this point, I have not had that. That's just a random civilian, not the douche in a Porsche as you can see. So what's his problem trying to ram me off the road? Despite being fully upgraded, it feels like I'm back at square one. And at times, before square one. I keep drifting off the road no matter what speed I take around the corner. The grip continues to be inconsistent from not working at all, to perfectly, to too well. The physics continue to spontaneously change. The traffic, while not as dense, still manages to get in your way, and douching a Porsche is not helping in the slightest. Here is the strangest thing, however. While it is true the levels have gotten harder, the effectiveness of the upgrades has declined and the general faults are affecting my ability to play, it is still somewhat easy. Out of each of the 4 stage sections of the map, I haven't failed more than twice, ever. Maybe there's a mechanic that reduces the difficulty with every continue? I don't know, but whatever the reason, achieving my goal was still manageable, as was its difficulty. I'm not saying it isn't frustrating, but you can get past these issues fairly quickly if you keep at it. Chances are you'll never walk again with all the crashes you'll endure, but at least you can say that somehow, this is all Evolved Pixel's fault. Crossing the final line with a Mario hop for good measure, the end screen is displayed. The Outrun band actually learns a new song, and douching a Porsche goes into a deep depression because I was the better simp. The high scores are displayed over a picture of attractive people, and the game resets. So, Turbo Outrun. How was it? Well, I certainly see the appeal. Driving fast cars is fun, and when played on a cabinet it feels even more satisfying thanks to the steering wheel and the pedals. The game itself, however, is not perfect. With your upgrades becoming worthless by the time you've collected the last one, physics defying themselves constantly, and hard to read traffic, it'll take a lot of luck, practice and memorizing before you can do a perfect errorless run. Even with its flaws, however, it's still an enjoyable and satisfying game. But most importantly, the lesson to be learnt here is that in the 80s, to get the girl, all it takes is money. How much money? Let's take a tally. Despite my many crashes and timeouts, it was a low cost to complete this game. At £1 per credit, £1 to start the game and 7 losses later, I only used a total of 8 credits and pounds to complete the game, putting it in joint second place for the most expensive game in the under £10 category. As for the grand totals, both of them tiptoe up slightly, with the total credits now reaching 1,197 and the total money spent so close yet so far to the 1k mark at £974.50. Now once again, make your predictions about what game you think will push us to that goal. You might just be right. And that was Turbo Overdrive. Thanks for watching, everyone. Join us next time where we'll be going back to the 1988 Olympics to potentially rewrite history. And now to play us out, ladies and gentlemen, the Outrun!